Today is World Suicide Prevention Day. Every 40 seconds, someone dies by suicide, and for every suicide death, there are over 20 suicide attempts made. The following messages are from people who have attempted to end their life and from those who have lost a loved one to suicide. Please give it a listen and check in on those around you.
My name is Amber, and it's been 1 year ago this week that we lost our 18-year-old son Tegan to suicide. We have just walked through the most difficult year of our lives. From the very beginning, after we lost Tegan, I have felt a pull to advocate and to raise awareness in any way that I can. So I'm doing what I can in my own community. And if there is anything that I could say to anyone who may be struggling with suicide ideation or who has ever had those thoughts, this is what I would offer you. Everything is figure-outable. There's nothing in this world that you cannot work through. There's nothing in this world that cannot be figured out. Everything is figure-outable. Please stay. Please reach out for the help that you need. Please tell somebody. Please use the new 988. Please use any local resources that you know of. Please stay. You are loved, you are needed, you are wanted, and you have more potential than you could ever possibly imagine. Please stay.
Hi, my name is Daniel Constable, and in spring 2012, I attempted to take my own life for the second time. I severely hurt myself on the second occasion, and I was sectioned under the Mental Health Act. The reason why I wanted to take my own life was probably a series of events, but the main ones were I was on the receiving end of domestic violence and I was severely bullied from the age of 8 to 16. I really struggled to fit in and I felt quite isolated. I suppose I came from a normal family life, a very good family life, but one that I suppose was quite traditional in terms of not being able to express ourselves or speak quite openly around feelings, just because it wasn't a dumb thing then, and especially in school it was man up, act up, pull your socks up. Since then I have gone on a bit of a journey myself. I've worked with a number of therapists, counsellors, breathwork gurus, coaches, and I've tried absolutely everything under the sun to develop myself mentally. I'm now working in that space, that mental wellbeing space. I am a mind and performance coach. I'm also doing as much as I can to help eradicate stigma around suicide and mental health. It's now my life mission to help as many people as I possibly can. I don't know how far that's going to take me, and I don't know where it's going to take me. But I just want you to know that these dark thoughts, they don't last forever. What we need at that time is to know that someone is there. Don't worry about the right words to say or how it sounds. Just to know you're there is what's important during these times. So have the difficult conversation, trust your gut intuition, and carry on believing in people. They can return from the brink.
This is my daughter Lauren, an autistic young person massively failed by our UK's mental health system. Lauren tragically was able to take her own life whilst being detained under the Mental Health Act. I'll never forget the night I heard the news. I took the call at work. I was on a night shift at work. I took the call from the doctor on duty. I immediately froze and then got in the car and drove home and then continued on to Manchester. It was too late to say goodbye. Lauren had already gone. Lauren was the most kind-hearted, loving person you would ever meet. She loved with such passion. Her death is a tragedy. She wasn't just my daughter, she was my best friend.
My name is Melanie, and my children and I were severely impacted by suicide, and this is just part of our story. My first husband was very abusive, and on the last day of his life, he decided to ambush me in our home at gunpoint, tie me up, assault me, and then force me to witness him take his own life. And that was the end of his story, but in many ways the beginning of ours, because it was the beginning of grief and struggle and having more questions than answers and trying to explain to my children what happened and why when I don't even understand it myself. Suicide is not an answer. It is just a period at the end of a sentence, and the people left behind are the ones left grappling with that, the why, the what ifs, what could we have done, and we won't ever have those answers. And I'm telling you that if you are here today, that you are here for a reason and a purpose, and it is not your time. If you are struggling, reach out to someone. If someone is offering you help, take it. Talk to someone you trust and start today to get yourself on a better path to hope and restored health, because you are worth it. So please, please stay.
10th of September is World Suicide Prevention Day, but it's also Diva's birthday. It's a day that I've celebrated for 26 years with Diva, because that was the most important day and special day of my life. Since 10th of May 2020, I still honour the day, and I'd like to celebrate the life that she lived, but it's overshadowed by the way she died. And it's one of the most loneliest days, even if I'm surrounded by people. The loss of Diva is just there. It's there every day. But how do you celebrate a day that's so special to you when the person that you love so much isn't there? But then if I ignore it, it's like, what, did that special day never happen? Now I go to Oxford on her birthday and I pay for things such as a birthday cake or gifts to leave at the till for people, as a way of spreading a ripple of kindness, because the ripple of suicide is real and we felt it. We've really felt it. Please, if you are even considering ending your life, please know there are easier ways to end your pain. And the suicide, it passes it on, and it passes it on to people that you love, that you don't even know love you.
My name is Tiffany, and I'm here to introduce you to my daughter, Aurelia Starr. She took her life a little over 3 months ago on May 28th, 2022, the day after she graduated 8th grade. I love her with all of my heart. She was a shining bright light to everyone that knew her. We will never understand why she took her life or felt compelled to. She had been bullied for a little over 3 years, bullied along with cyberbullying. I love her with all of my heart. Suicide does not just take one person. Suicide takes families. I know that when she died, she took me with her. And there's not a day that goes by that I do not hurt for her. I love you so much, my darling angel.
Hello, my name is Tammy. When I was around 16 years old, I attempted suicide. Was very close to the edge. I'm not exactly sure what stopped me, but I didn't go through with it. That was 30 years ago. I've wanted to die several times since then. I haven't made another attempt. And it's because I realized if I killed myself, it guaranteed that nothing would ever get better. So I'm here to tell you, as rough as life can get, there's some moments worth staying here for. And I married one of them. The guy that I started dating after I decided not to kill myself.
My name is Nyasha, and I started my blog, letstalkaboutsuicide.com, shortly after we lost my best friend, Cody Allen, to suicide. We lost him about a year ago now. And one of the things that really stands out for me is that something he always used to say was that, well, my family will be okay. All of you guys will be okay. You'll be sad at first, but you'll get over it, and then you'll be better off without me. And first, it's just awful that he felt that way. And then secondly, it just has not been true. It's absolutely not been true. And as we're coming up on the anniversary of his death, it's especially difficult. So I started my blog as a way to get rid of the taboo, get some more information out there about depression and suicide loss survivors, just so that they could have a place to come and talk about it. So that's my goal, and I hope people see it as a space of hope.
As a suicide survivor myself almost 3 years ago, and someone that lost their father to suicide about 5 years ago, I understand these dark times. I understand the blindness that we can't see our friends around us. And some of your friends might not be able to see that you're reaching out to them. But take a minute and call 5 of your friends. Ask if they're okay. And help them to understand that you're there for them. You could be the difference between hopeless and hopeful.
Hi, my name is Stormy. I'm 27 years old, and I struggled with suicide ever since I was a kid because some of my family members went through wondering, if life was worth it. And I just remember the feeling of imagining what it would be like to have to live without people that I loved so much. It's unthinkable. And I myself was suicidal a couple times over the years. I understand what it feels like to be at that point, but I've lost a lot of friends to suicide, and what you leave behind is just devastating. People have to be reminded constantly of you everywhere they go. This person that they love so much is now gone, and it was your choice. And that was something that I could never, even though I felt like, sometimes maybe it wasn't going to be worth it to keep going because life hurts sometimes, that was never something that I could bring myself to do to the people that I know loved me. So I just like to encourage you guys that, we don't know if we get more than one life. What if we only get this one? And aren't you curious to see what happens? Most of it is up to you. It really is. It's a choice. So I think life is a gift. I wouldn't throw it away for the world, but just know that you're not alone. And there's many people out there that can sympathize and that want to be here for you.
My name is Michelle Rusk, and it's been nearly 30 years since I lost my younger sister to suicide. She was 21 and I was 17. And in those almost 30 years, which is hard to believe so much time has gone by, I've learned so much about hope. And it's been through writing about suicide and grief and speaking and traveling around the world and meeting so many people who have traveled, maybe not the same journey as me, but a similar one. And here behind me in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where I live, I'm at Old Town Herbal in Old Town. And one thing that we do every year is we set up a tree for anyone whose life has been touched by suicide. And this is a place where they can put their loved one's name. We invite people to come down, and whether you've lost a loved one to suicide or someone you love is attempted, or maybe you've attempted yourself. And we invite people to come down here and to light a candle and to share community in that. And the one thing that I have really learned so much about, though, is the idea of hope, that we all within us whether it be really small, we can't feel it, we can't see it, but there is an ember of hope in all of us. And it's up to us to somehow to figure out how to capture that and to hold on to that, because that's something that's just so important to help us to go forward. And especially with everything we've been through in the past couple of years, we all need to take care of ourselves and take the time to figure out what that ember of hope is and how we can make it glow brighter. And don't forget, you can always, always, always call 988, and there's always hope available. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Charlotte, and I unfortunately lost my dad to suicide in October of 2015 during my freshman year of college. When this happened, I was blindsided, to say the least. It was completely earth-shattering to me, and even when you look back and see the signs, you never expect to lose your loved one this way. Although I'm still on a grief journey and always will be, I felt a tremendous amount of healing by volunteering with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. I started to educate myself and advocate for others by joining community walks and hosting them at local colleges and sharing facts about suicide and safe reporting on my social media pages, and it has been a tremendous healing tool for me. As a suicide loss survivor, I can tell you that words matter. How we talk about suicide can cause stigma, further shame, and even cause contagion, especially in the media. If you want to educate yourself and contribute to suicide prevention, please visit afsp.org/reporting on suicide prevention.
They're better off without me. I'm a burden. They'll get over it. Have any of you ever had thoughts like this or said things like this? If you're struggling with depression and thoughts of suicide, I bet you have. I'm here to tell you none of them are true. They're the lies the disease of mental illness is telling you. If you don't believe me, perhaps I can change your mind by giving you a first-hand account of what happens to a family after a loved one dies by suicide. My name is Steve Miskelly, and I lost my son Ian to suicide on September 7th, 2020. He was 19 years old, and he was 2 weeks shy of his 20th birthday. He said these things to his friends and his teammates on occasion. He wrote them in his journal. He said them to his therapist. And I'm convinced at the end he believed those things to be true. After Ian died, we were in shock. We still are in a lot of ways. So let me tell you what a typical day feels like after having lost our son to suicide. You wake up and you try to find a reason to get out of bed again today. You're exhausted because you tossed and turned all night. As a matter of fact, you're exhausted all the time because you're in this constant state of battle with your subconscious. You know your loved one is gone. That awareness is now always present. Yet you have to get on with life at some point. So you suppress it. You compartmentalize it. You only let it out a piece at a time, and usually in private. You do this because you don't want to break down and cry in public. You do this because you can't allow yourself to roll up into the fetal position and just lay there for the rest of your life. It's mentally, physically, and emotionally exhausting. That awareness leads to an underlying sadness that coats, tempers, and dulls everything. You don't look ahead to life's great milestones anymore. When good things happen, they're not as good. You're not as happy. You're not as excited. You're not as grateful. The sadness pervades everything and everywhere. You constantly beat yourself up over something you said or something you should have done, telling yourself, if only I'd done this or that, they wouldn't have died by suicide. It's never ending. I go to the cemetery several times a week. It's part of my routine now. I even worked it into my exercise routine. It's the perfect distance to stop halfway through my run. But without fail, several times a month, I go there and just break down crying. Sometimes it's only for a minute. Sometimes it's 15 or 20 minutes. The crushing weight of this reality just hits me, and I just break down. I talk to my son all the time, desperately looking for a response, but there's only silence. I find comfort in his favorite songs and the special signs we've learned to see and recognize. But sometimes deep down inside, I wonder if we're just making it up to make ourselves feel better. Does any of this sound like we're better off without him? Does it sound like we're getting over it? It's the exact opposite. When a loved one dies unexpectedly, it changes you. When they die by suicide, it scars and cripples you. Does that sound like we're better off? God, I hope not. You need to know that if you're having these feelings and you're contemplating suicide, number one, you are loved. Your friends and family will not be better off without you. You matter, and you matter to a lot more people than you even realize. Take it from a desperate father who's lost his only son. I would give everything and anything to have him back, and that wouldn't be a burden. It would be a blessing.